Oh yeah, I did see that.
Well, it's really down my leg. It started with my thigh, and it switched over to my leg. My MRI, man, shows my L5.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our August the 8th meeting of the Memphis and Shelby County Land Use Control Board. My name is Mary W. Sharp, and I will be serving as your chairperson today. We will begin this morning's meeting with a roll call. Mr. Ragsdale, would you proceed, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Wilbanks?
Here.
Mr. Tolles?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. McKenna? Mr. Gill?
Here.
Vice Chair Lyles Wallace?
Here.
Chair Sharp?
Here.
Scott Fleming?
Here.
And Dr. Libby Pritchard.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale. I would like to remind you that copies of today's agenda are located at the front right podium if you need them. If you wish to be a speaker on any case that is on today's agenda, please fill out an attendant speaker's card located in the front podiums. Once you have filled out the card, please bring it up front and hand it to one of our DPD staff members located at the left podium. When that agenda item is called, you will be given an opportunity to speak. At this point, I would like to read our conflict of interest statement as follows. The adopted policy of the Land Use Control Board requires that any member of the board recuse himself or herself from any participation in the discussion or voting on any matter on the meeting's agenda in which he or she may have direct or indirect personal interest. The member shall vacate his or her seat during deliberation on any matter from which they have recused themselves. An abstention may substitute for a recusal for the purposes of maintaining a quorum. I would like to now get approval of our minutes from the last meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Chair. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We are now ready to hear our director's report. Mr. Zena.
Good morning.
Good morning.
John Zena, Director of Planning and Development. Board members, I know you have a full agenda today, but I thought that we needed to begin by acknowledging the outstanding service of two members who will be serving for the final time on the Land Use Control Board today, Mr. Scott Fleming and Dr. Margaret Pritchard. First, beginning with Mr. Fleming, I understand this is not your first stint on the Land Use Control Board. This current stint dates back to 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And prior to that, several more years. Mr. Fleming, you of course are one of the most well-respected architects throughout our community, and you have certainly left your mark on our community through the buildings that you and your firm has designed. But through your service to this board, you have left your mark on our community in many, many other ways, not just on the projects that have been approved and built, but also through your service on this board in making decisions of what doesn't get built in areas where maybe a project isn't appropriate or the time isn't appropriate. And I think that's an important part of this job that contributes to how one makes their mark through the Land Use Control Board. And this board certainly in our community has benefited greatly from your experience, your perspective in making difficult decisions, critical decisions on how our community is built. And I think it's also fitting of your legacy that your replacement will be someone from your firm who I think has also no doubt benefited from your wisdom and your experience. So on behalf of Mayor Paul Young, the City of Memphis and Shelby County, Division of Planning and Development, we want to extend our thanks and our appreciation for all of your many years of service to the Land Use Control Board. I don't know if you have any words you want to share.
Well, I'll make it very brief because I'm one who likes to get through the agenda pretty quickly. I really knew this day was coming sooner or later, and just thought it's time for somebody with some fresh set of eyes to join the board. And it's been a privilege and an honor and a responsibility to be on this board, and a blessing. I've met so many wonderful people, including my colleagues here. And many in years past. I think actually I've been a member of this board for 5 different decades. It was hard to believe. I think I was about 13 when I was on the board originally. But it's been a real honor, and I just can't thank the staff enough. Worked with a lot of different directors over the years, and it's been a great privilege. And I just am thankful that this day has come, and looking forward to helping the board however I can in the future. Thank you, Mr. Zena. Thank you.
Mr. Fleming. All right, and next, of course, Dr. Barbara Pritchard. If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Pritchard, you're the longest serving member of the Land Use Control Board, certainly the longest consecutive serving. And if I'm also not mistaken, your tenure began in 1988 under the appointment of Mayor Dick Hackett. Dr. Pritchard, you certainly have not only been a benefit to this board. I understand you have an even longer tenure as a member of the Central Gardens neighborhood. And I think over the years, you have consistently been a voice for neighborhoods on this board. I think that is something that many will remember about your time in service on the Land Use Control Board. But in my experience, I've also noted how critical of a voice you have been for fairness and reason and balance in all of the matters that come before this board so many times over the years. As you all know, and certainly the audience knows, the decisions of the Land Use Control Board can often be contentious, and they require a balance of property interests, not just of those of the applicant, but of all property owners and residents of those around it that are affected by an application. The balance of preserving character while also looking to the future is a critical part of what this board does. And Dr. Pritchard, in my experience, I have seen you embody that balance and finding that fairness maybe better than most. This board and our community has benefited greatly from your experience, your wisdom, and that fairness, always seeking to weigh all factors that govern the decisions that come before this board. So after 36 years, I would say your legacy is certainly shown by the way that you've approached every case that's come before this board is seen by those around you and experienced by those around you. Those traits that you bring are shared by all the other members of the board who have served with you. So on behalf of the Mayor, Paul Young, the City of Memphis, and Shelby County, and the Division of Planning and Development, I'd like to thank you for all of your wonderful years of service on this board.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed meeting all of these new folks and making new friends. And if ever I can do anything, just please let me know.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I have no other announcements today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you again.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Ragsdale, may I please get a secretary's report for this month and then an explanation of today's procedures?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have the secretary's report, so I'll go into the procedure. At the beginning of today's meeting, we will establish a consent agenda for those items where no one in the audience or on the board is requesting an individual public hearing. After the consent agenda is established and approved, we will move on to the regular agenda. For each case on the regular agenda, the DPD planner will give a presentation. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation and testimony from others who support the application. The application and supporters will be given a total of 10 minutes. Following each speaker, the chair will ask the board members if they have any questions for that speaker. Next, the opposition will be given a total of 10 minutes to present their case. Following each speaker, the chair will ask the board members if they have any questions for that speaker. Finally, the applicant will then have a 3-minute rebuttal period under the same rules. Following all the presentations and after all parties have been heard, the chair will ask the board members if they have any additional questions of anyone who spoke. Then the chair will close the public hearing portion of the case, entertain a motion on the matter, discuss, and then vote on the application. If an applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing portion of the case, or if a board member wishes to hear any additional testimony from any party for additional clarification, a motion will need to be made along with a second and then a 2/3 affirmative vote of the board is required to reopen the public hearing portion of the agenda item. If the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and the opposition will be allowed an equal amount of time to provide additional testimony. After the additional comments, the board will close the public hearing portion of the case and deliberate and take the final vote. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a case, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card. These are available, These are available at the front podium. Speaker's cards are not required of applicants since their names are already part of the record.
Okay, thank you. The board is a supporter of community involvement, and we welcome neighborhood comments and feedback. We are respectful of the fact that many of you have taken off work or adjusted your schedules to be here today. But we ask that your comments please be made within the time frame allowed. If there are multiple speakers, please try not to be repetitive so as to make the most of your side's 10-minute time allotment. For example, if one of the complaints is it's going to make our neighborhood lose the value, then 10 people don't need to say that. So try to make every speaker have something worthwhile to say to take care of your 10 minutes. Lastly, I'd like you to ask you to silence all of your cell phones so as not to interrupt or disturb anyone during today's proceedings. Before I move to the consent agenda, I just want to say happy birthday to two of our board members, Ms. Lisa Wilbanks and Ms. Desiree Lyles Wallace. Happy birthday for the month of August. Okay, now we're going to move to the consent agenda. With our procedures now explained, I would like to introduce to my right Ms. Lisa Wilbanks, who will be this morning's consent agenda chairperson. Ms. Wilbanks will read items 1 through 18 as the consent agenda. Once the consent agenda is read, if you wish to discuss one of these items individually, please come forward and give us the item number, and we will pull the case. We will then vote on the remaining consent agenda items as one vote, and following the vote, we will hear the cases that were pulled individually. Ms. Wilbanks, will you proceed?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 1, case SUP 2024-017 in the university area. The request is a special use permit to allow a drive-through restaurant in CMU 1 zoning located at 4615 Quince Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 3, case S 2024-015 in Cordova. The request is a 2-lot residential major re-subdivision at 8965 Freeman Oaks Cove. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 4, case PD 2024-008 in Core City. The request is a new plan development to allow residential and retail uses located at 401 Dr. MLK Jr. Avenue. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 5, case SUP 2024-020 near Lamar. The request is a special use permit to allow a group daycare home located at 2522 Bryan Cove. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 6, case Z 2024-005 in the University area. The request is a rezoning from employment to residential urban 1 located on the east side of Waring Road, south of Sam Cooper Boulevard. Staff recommendation is approval. Item number 7, case MJR 2024-034 in Parkway Village. The request is a site plan review for a truck stop in the Holiday City Plan Development located at 3278 Lamar Avenue. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 9, case PD 2024-010 in East Memphis. The request is a new plan development to allow a convenience store with gas sales at 5115 Quince Road. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 10, case PD 2024-011 in Whitehaven. The request is to add land to the existing commercial Brooks Hernando Plan Development located at 1145 East Brooks Road. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 11, case S 2024-017. The request is a 2-lot major subdivision located at 7204 State Line Road. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 12, case S 2024-025 in South Memphis. The request is a 7-lot residential major re-subdivision located at 116 Mallory Avenue. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 13, case SUP 2024-011 near Jackson. The request is a special use permit to allow vehicle sales, ATVs, in the commercial mixed-use 3 district located at 4965 Summer Avenue. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 15, case SUP 2024-022 in East Memphis. The request is a special use permit to allow group daycare at 5091 Quince Road. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 16, case SUP 2024-023 in Parkway Village. The request is a special use permit to allow motor vehicle sales at 5700 Mount Moriah Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 17, case SUP 2024-024 in South Memphis. The request is a special use permit to allow a group daycare at 1656 Arkansas Street. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. That is our consent agenda.
Thank you. We have pulled items 2, 8, 13, and 18.
14.
2, 8, 14, and 18. The items on the consent agenda will now be voted on with 1 vote. Subject to the recommendation of the DPD. If the consent agenda is approved, only items number 2, 8, 14, and 18 will have full independent public hearings. By voting on the consent agenda, each board member is affirming that he or she has read the staff report and agrees with its findings, and where applicable, its recommended conditions.
You're fine.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
Yes, ma'am. Move to approve item number 1, case SUP 2024-017. Item number 3, case S 2024-015 as a hold. Item number 4, case PD 2024-008 as a hold. Item number 5, case SUP 2024-020 as a hold. Item number 6, case Z 2024-005. Item number 7, case MJR 2024-013. Item number 9, case PD 2024-010 as a hold. Item number 10, case PD 2024-011 as a hold. Item number 11, case S 2024-017 as a hold. Item number 12, case S 2024-025. Item number 13, case SUP 2024-011 as a hold. Item number 15, case SUP 2024-022 as a hold. Item number 16, case SUP 2024-023. And item number 17, case SUP 2024-024.
Thank you, Ms. Wilbanks. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion amongst our board members? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go to Dr. Pritchard for the regular agenda. Number 2.
Yes. Madam Chair, agenda item number 2, PD 2024-005, Frazier. Amendment to the Frazier Business Center PD to allow a landfill and recycling center located at 3086 Kasha Road, Street. Staff recommendation is rejection.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchard. We're ready for the staff.
Good morning, Nicholas Warder with the DPD. Yes, this is a PD 2024-005. The applicant is Memphis Wrecking Co. And their request is to expand an existing Class 3 landfill in the Fraser area. So here's a location map. We're here in sort of the West Fraser area, and to the right you'll see a vicinity map showing where owners of the blue properties received mail notice. First, I want to point out that we're talking about a Class 3 landfill here. So sometimes folks hear the word landfill, and I just want to be a little specific on what that means. So photo credit to Daily Memphian for this, but as you'll see on their sign there, this accepts construction debris. So exactly what you see on that sign there. Here is a brief timeline of the zoning history of this site. So efforts to use this property as a landfill began back in 2006 with a rezoning application. And then was approved as a PD in 2007. And then there were several subsequent applications, which I can go into more detail with if it's requested. But if we jump all the way down to January 2018, City Council rejected a very similar request to the one before you today. And then this application, of course, was filed in May of this year. Here's a site aerial. So I may refer to, during this presentation, as to parcel 1 and 2. So parcel 1 has been used as a landfill since 2007. That was approved in the original PD approval back then. What the applicants wish to expand the landfill operations to is labeled on your screen as parcel 2. So just being clear about that. Here's a surrounding land use map. You'll see that it's surrounded by predominantly residential uses, but also commercial uses along Thomas Street, as well as outlined in pink there is the Whitney Elementary School property. Here are some photos of the surrounding site. This is toward the northern extreme. So here's the applicant's concept plan. You'll see it's essentially the majority of the site being used for landfill operations, but they also submitted, in their concept plan, there are 2 commercial properties included, and I'm going to talk about those a little bit more later. So here is the proposed final fill of the landfill. So when the landfill is completed, basically how tall it will be. So if you can make out those numbers, those are sea level, not feet from grade. But each of those lines represents 10 feet in height, and the finished elevation would be about 90 feet, above Whitney Avenue. So here in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about, of course, staff is recommending rejection on this, and here in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about why that is. But first, I wanted to show the Memphis 3.0 degree of change map. As you can see, this area is close by to the Fraser Plaza anchor in Memphis 3.0, and the degree of change is designated as accelerate. Additionally, here is the future land use map from 3.0. And you can see that this site is designated anchor neighborhood, primarily single unit. And if you go down to the bottom right of your screen, in an accelerate anchor, that means, primarily detached single family residences, but also, sort of missing middle housing, duplexes, triplexes, et cetera. So in conclusion, first, I want to point out that staff has determined this is not consistent with the Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan. Of course, state law requires that we make land use decisions that are consistent with that plan. And again, staff has determined this is not consistent. Additionally, we want to point out that it is a explicitly stated action in Memphis 3.0 to promote pedestrian-oriented infill around Fraser Plaza. This application, if approved, would make that sort of development practically impossible on a 28-acre-ish site. Is also would, in staff's analysis, would undermine efforts to do so in the surrounding area. Additionally, we want to reiterate that City Council rejected a very similar item to this in 2018, and we don't find that there are any changes that have occurred in the vicinity which would undermine their findings that they made at that time. In fact, the only relevant major policy change that has happened since then is the adoption of 3.0, which of course this request is not consistent with. Third, if you read the applicant's letter of intent, you know that they point out that there is a need for this use, and staff does not disagree. Of course, you know, diverting construction debris from, you know, sanitary class 1 landfills that accept household waste is a public benefit. We're not going to argue with that. But we want to recognize that because we acknowledge that these are beneficial uses generally does not mean that the expansion of this site is beneficial at this particular location. And of course, in conclusion, we find that this project will have a substantial or undue effect on the adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other matters related to public health, safety, and general welfare. So under our recommendation, we are, as stated, recommending rejection. However, if approved, staff recommends the following site plan conditions and revisions to the outline plan conditions. The exact language of the changes we're asking to be made to the site plan, if approved, are on the screen now. Our recommended conditions, if approved, are not substantive. I would say they're mostly to, you know, simplify and facilitate administration. One thing I will point out is we are asking for, if approved, for that commercial parcel at the south, the bottom of your screen there, to be removed, because that is the existing ingress egress for the landfill, and so wouldn't be able to be developed for, you know, some 30 years until the landfill is completed. The applicants also have some ideas they've shared with us about post-landfill reuse of the site, and our recommendation would be basically that those plans have to come back to this body as a major modification sometime in the future. And with that, I will accept any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Waldrop. Any questions of staff at this time? Okay, we're ready for the applicant, and we'd like for you to give us your name, address.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Lou Wardlaw, Martin Tate, Morrow and Marston, 6410 Poplar Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee. I represent Steve and Carol Williamson, who are here behind me, in their application to expand an existing Class 3 construction and demolition landfill in the Fraser area. There has been an enormous amount of misinformation about the application, spread largely in an effort to cast the application in a negative light. Unfortunately, these claims are fear-driven and really misrepresent the scope of the Williamsons' business and the application that's before you. The opposition letters in your staff packet address fears of rats, poison chemicals, odors, in other words, fears associated with a Class 1 municipal landfill, what you would commonly call a dump. And I appreciate Mr. Waldrop explaining the difference between the two. This is not that. None of that occurs at the Williamson site, but that's what the neighbors have been told, and that's what they are afraid of. We've had 3 neighborhood meetings to address those concerns with stakeholders in the community through open and honest conversation. I always call this an open book test. We've given every report for decades to land use, to the Department of Planning and Development. We're not asking you to trust us, but asking you to trust the governmental entities that inspect this site. Beyond that, having heard concerns, even though unfounded in these meetings, the Williamsons had 3 separate pest control experts and an environmental expert inspect the landfill site and certify that there's a lack of rodents on the site, rodent activity, rodent food sources. Even that, they've offered to pay directly to either the school board or to the Whitney Elementary School to allow them to do their own independent inspection and help them if that is indeed a problem. As the staff report correctly notes, Class 3 landfills are only permitted to dispose of construction and demolition waste. That's it. There's no household garbage, there's no food products, there's no refuse of that type, there's no dangerous chemicals, there's no toxins, it's all inert materials. Staff adds, and this is important, this is a landfill and recycling center. Staff adds in the report, the Fraser Recycling Center provides on-site recycling services, producing beneficial products like soil amendments. Up to 30 to 40% of what comes to the site doesn't go into the ground, it's recycled. It goes back out either in soil amendments, mulch, metals are taken out, etc. This application is simply not for a dump, and such fears aren't based in fact. Several of the pictures that are in the staff report were simply recycled from years ago, almost a decade ago. This is a photograph. On the top is the current photograph from Whitney Elementary School. On the bottom is a 10-year projection of what it will be. Simply put, you can't see it now, and you won't be able to see it in 10 years. Doug, if you'd show the other one. Nope, the small one. I also want to stress, and this is obviously not to scale, but it is dimensionally accurate. There's as much green space surrounding the actual landfill activities as there is landfill. Only half of the space itself is actually going to be used for landfill. The part that would be 90 feet above Whitney Road is only a very small percentage of the top. The rest of it is at a gentle grade. Thank you, Doug. This is a family-owned business. It's the cleanest and best-run landfill in the greater Memphis area. It's one of only 2 Class 3 landfills left in the entire area. If it's not approved for expansion, very soon there will be one. There will be a monopoly if the Williams are eventually put out of business. It's much less, thank you, Doug, it's much less intrusive than any of the Class 3 landfills that you may know of. It has only one single access point at Thomas and Stage Road. Any of the trucks that go to the landfill go in and out of that. They don't pass through neighborhoods. They come nowhere near the school. They come nowhere near the park. They come nowhere near Girls Inc. They go in at one spot and they come out at one spot. So I'm going to use the staff report as a roadmap to address why this project is good business for Fraser, good planning, and good for the city of Memphis as a whole. Staff's first conclusion is that this request is not consistent with Memphis 3.0, and we disagree. First, this is an application to expand an existing business, not to create a new landfill. This business has peacefully coexisted at the Fraser site for 15 years. It's already bounded to the northwest and south by commercial and industrial uses, all of whom support the project. It's a healthy part of the Fraser economy. Memphis 3.0 sets out guiding values for Fraser: growth in business, retail services and employment, greater access to jobs and business for all, greater use of existing infrastructure capacity, such as this existing business, to service growth and development and density. I'd like to point out, and this was handed up to you earlier, the very picture that's used for the Fraser district in the Memphis 3.0 plan is of the landfill site. It is the landfill site that is used to demonstrate what Fraser 3.0 is about. It's a boost for the Fraser economy. Staff's second conclusion is that no changes have occurred, which would undermine the findings of the council back in 2018. First, and I won't get into the legal aspects of it, but the council made no findings back then. The Williamsons were not allowed to speak in support of their application, and we're back here today. That said, there have been several important changes since 2018. In 2018, staff found that staff is not convinced that more area needs to be devoted to this use. The current staff report reverses that position, stating in conclusion 3 that staff recognizes the public benefit of diverting construction debris from municipal waste landfills, calling them beneficial and necessary uses. Staff's finding follows the mission statement of Tennessee's Division of Solid Waste Management. And that mission statement is to protect, improve, and promote health and environmental quality through the responsive, effective oversight of waste management activities and the beneficial use of recovered materials, just as they do here. Following that state requirement in its bid process for diversion partners such as the Williamsons, the city of Memphis publishes its goal is to maximize the use of facilities other than Class 1 landfills, to include Class 3 landfills and recycling facilities, just such as the Williamsons' existing landfill, to achieve state of Tennessee waste diversion goals. With that in mind, the Williamsons have been awarded contracts with both the city of Memphis and Memphis Light Gas and Water. Even so, staff suggests that the landfill should not be expanded here. But it is at this location, and it has been at this location for over 15 years without complaint problem or citation from government authorities. All the while, Fraser property values have continued to rise side by side with the existing landfill. In fact, Porterleaf and Girls Inc. have completed multi-million-dollar sites just to the north of the project. Any concern that the landfill undermines efforts to promote pedestrian-oriented infill development at and around Fraser Plaza are completely unfounded. Although Fraser Plaza is about 3 miles away from the site, this all ends with the landfill's closure and the land being donated by the Williamsons to the Fraser community to use as it sees fit, as a park or any walkable use that would directly benefit the citizens of Fraser. There can't be any more forward-looking Memphis 3.0 than for this land within 20 to 30 years to be entirely given back to the community to use as it wants. To have a park similar in nature to Shelby Farms right in the middle of Fraser. Finally, staff's conclusion number 4 is that the project will have an adverse effect upon adjacent property and the character of the neighborhood. This conclusion is driven by the unfounded neighborhood fears and is stoked by a June 25th, 2024 school board resolution passed without any input from the applicants or any opportunity for them to speak. Page 26, critically, of the staff report shows that all of the local governmental entities have nothing negative to say about the expansion. And that includes engineering, the fire department, the health department, construction code enforcement, and Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. We also met with the director of Memphis Parks Commission, who voiced no opposition to the expansion. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation has already approved the expansion. They're the environmental watchdogs for the state, controlled by the EPA ultimately, and they've approved the expansion. There is not one identifiable fact that there will be any adverse effect at all. Instead, the opposition, from whom you'll hear in a minute, condemns the landfill based on
Madam
rumor.
Chair, the applicant has about 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. I pass my remaining time to Ms. Williams.
Good morning. My name is Carol Williamson. I'm the majority owner of Fraser Landfill and Recycling. We're a small, family-owned business located in West Fraser, and we've been here for over 15 years. We provide jobs for 8 to 10 employees with good pay, plus overtime, steady year-round work, and we give preference to our Fraser residents. My husband's family has been settled in this area since the early 1900s, and we still have family living here today. We have a proven track record of a well-run business that greatly improved the Thomas Street from a deep drop-off, a liquor store, an outdoor adult movie theater, to what it is now, a leveled-out, beautifully landscaped, and well-maintained entrance to Fraser. A picture is worth 1,000 words, hence the slideshow. We have appealed to the staff, community members, and opposition to visit our site, to no avail. Every person that I have told what our business is at this location is very surprised, since there is a huge misconception of what landfills are.
Ms.
We
Williams.
take no toxic waste, no hazardous waste, food, trash, no oil, no chemicals, or any type of liquids, and we are highly regulated.
Ms. Williamson, you only have about 15 seconds. You had already used up all of your time. You only had 30 seconds when you reached the microphone. So can you bring it to a close?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Our industrial and commercial neighbors to the south, north, and west support our efforts. With the expansion of this business comes an end product that is great benefit to the West Fraser community. As he described, a walking area similar to Shelby Farms, which will ultimately be up to the community as we enter into a community benefits contract.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of the applicants or the representatives at this time, or the support? Any questions? Okay, we're going to go to the opposition. And opposition, you have 15 people who want to speak. Now, if the first 4 or 5 people speak longer than the 10 minutes, we're going to have to cut off the last 10 people. So please use your time wisely. Please don't let the first 3 or 4 people get up here and use up all your time. So we're ready for the opposition, and we do have 15 cards, and we are keeping time. Whoever wants to come first, give us your name, address, and your statement.
Good morning, my name is Rebecca Murray. I'm at 2926 North Tresvant in Fraser. I'm standing here this morning because the Williamson has continually was determined to subvert the will of the people. We have asked them not to do this, not to harm our children by expanding that dump, and they have. And also, Girls Inc. have the garden over there for the children to eat food from that garden, and they're not going to be able to do that because 20 years from now, those young people, girls and boys, giving birth will have to, we don't know what will happen to their children. So we're looking for our children today, and we're looking out for them for the future. We ask you, I understand that you have the rejection. We have sent our letters to you to plead with you, do not expand that landfill because it is harmful. I have pictures to show where I have gone by and there's smoke coming from the landfill. Thank you.
Give me your name again, please, ma'am.
Rebecca, R-E-B-C-C-A, Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Good morning. I'm Representative Justin J. Pearson for District 86, 1110 Starline, Memphis, Tennessee 38109. I am completely opposed to this project, and even hearing the way that it was presented by the people who are proposing it shows us why this is not a good idea. The people in Fraser for too long have suffered under environmental injustices and the harms from projects like this that continue to expand pollution, that continue to expand things that the community does not want. Listening to this person present this idea was articulating why this is so good for the community and things like that, but I didn't hear them saying they want to put this next to their home. I didn't hear them saying they want to put this next to their schools, such as Whitney Elementary School. The reality is this project is not only facing community opposition for the people who are going to live in Fraser into the future. This is harmful. This is degrading, again, that this project is being proposed in the way that it is, even after our own staff members have said we need to reject this project. And so I'm just here to ask that each and every one of you vote with your conscience and also vote for the people who live in the community and the people who represent this district against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, give us your name and address.
I'm Stephanie Love, Commissioner for District 3, 10 years strong. Whitney Elementary is a school in my district. The principal, the students, and the parents don't want the landfill there. I had a conversation with Whitney Elementary School principal last night. She unfortunately can't come. She is busy doing the work of the principal. My community doesn't want it. The board commissioner who represents that district doesn't want it. And how dare they? I have been representing this community for 10 years. How dare they give us a $5,000 check to buy us out? How dare they? You don't want it in your neighborhood. You don't want it beside your kids' school. Neither does Fraser. Don't dump on Fraser.
Thank you. Next. Name and address.
Sure, good morning. My name is Brian Blaugrind, Fraser resident of 10 years. We have a house at 2596 Henderson Street, and that's about a mile southeast of the site. My wife and I have 3 kids, 2 of which do daycare about a mile north of the site. We became aware of, we became opposed to this site and expansion when we noticed the burning. So even the materials are inert, the burning is not. I want to point out a couple of things that this burning is related to, both from the Shelby County Health Department. And so the pollution control section has issued a warning this year in 2024 because of the burning. And the other thing, so that was on February 16th. And then also this year, the Shelby County Health Department Pollution Control issued another warning for a late submission. It was about 36 days late. They did not submit the required Condition 10 report in a timely manner. So from a Fraser resident who rides bikes with my kids to Alberson Park, which is located between Whitney and the site, and who drives past the site on a beautiful day with windows down, who goes to the post office right across the street where I have a P.O. box. We would ask that you would consider the burning to be a big violation of Memphis 3.0 pedestrian promoted use of the Fraser Plaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Good morning. My name is James Isson, 2889 Palm Street, 38127. First, I stand before you today as a proud resident of Fraser for nearly 50 years. Throughout my time here, I have witnessed many positive aspects of the community gradually diminish. Unfortunately, along with these changes, we have also experienced the arrival of numerous negative impacts that have affected the quality of life in our neighborhood. The existence of this landfill and the proposed expansion are prime examples of the negative impacts. But the repeated rejection by the Land Use Board have been positive steps. However, some of my concerns to this expansion are, and hopefully no one has said these before, are the health risks, increased pollution, lowered property values, foul odors and rodent activity, long-term environmental impacts, overall lack of transparency, the positive economic benefits are minimal, contamination of soil and groundwater, major concerns of the disparities affecting low-income and minority areas, and stronger oversight and more rigorous enforcement of environmental regulations are needed. So I ask that you please reject this proposal today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gerald Scott. I serve as the Executive Director for the Fraser Community Development Corporation, 3684 North Watkins. You've heard a number of things that have been stated in the affirmative of this. I want to just point out some statistics that were stated. He said that 30% of the waste is sent back out. That's a low number compared to the 70% that goes into the ground that ultimately is going to have some type of an impact. We're not 100% sure what that impact is going to be, but there is an impact. And then you think about the impact it has, and you've heard from the residents, how it's impacting them. It's impacting the school. It's impacting our children, which I believe is our most precious commodity. And then they talked about the land values and how the land values have risen. Contrary to their belief, the land values have not risen because of what they've done. The land value has risen due to these residents, the stakeholders, the city helping out, focusing on making Fraser a place that we want to come home to. So by expanding this landfill, it's in direct opposition to our mantra, come home to Fraser. It's a direct opposition to the present and future opportunities for the Fraser community. So we ask respectfully that you not let this expansion happen because it is not good for the Fraser community. And we're lifting up the Fraser community, and this is helping to bring it down. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We have about 2 minutes, and we got 10 people that still want to speak. So make it short and sweet.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm a layman.
Name and address.
My name is Freddie James. I'm a longtime resident of Fraser. I live at 2436 Clear Park for a long time. And I just want to say that I'm in direct opposition to this dump being established here at Fraser. Now, I listen to the people that are for it, and they seem to sugarcoat it. But anywhere you dump materials, it's a dump. You can call it a land refill site, but it's a dump. And I'm just saying, I don't want to use up all your time, but I'm just saying, we as members of Fraser do not want it there. Our children are being reared there. Our children are going to school there. We do not want that in Fraser. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Houston. I serve as the Executive Director of Protect Our Aquifer. We're here in opposition to this expansion to stand in solidarity with the Fraser community. We've opposed multiple landfills, usually when they're in places of wetlands, they're near the recharge zone, or they're in proximity to community and schools. So I want to make 2 quick points. There's been a lot of great comments earlier, but a recent study, actually a peer-reviewed study in 2024 in February, found that PFAS concentration, so these are forever chemicals that are known to cause cancer, actually have a very high concentration in construction and demolition landfill. So they range from, this study found 270 to 30,000 micrograms of PFAS. Right now, EPA is trying to create regulations in the 4 range. And so these forever chemicals, they can cause cancer, and they're actually shown to be in higher quantities than normal municipal class 1 landfills. And so this alone is causing a lot of concern. And the second point is just, the future use of this site. We're talking about a 90-foot pile of debris. We can't wait around 30 years for this to be redeveloped. And also that land will not be stable enough to construct new buildings on. And then they're going to be given this to the community where they're going to be held with the liability of this PFAS and potential contamination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The time is up, but we're going to give one more person 1 minute since we gave the applicant an extra minute.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Reed. I'm representing the Fraser Urban Garden located at 4051 Point Church Road. And I'm going to just make this very quick, 2 points. So I did have an opportunity to attend one of the community meetings, and I posed a question regarding how they regulate or monitor the pollutants being emitted from their incinerator. They were not familiar with the specific pollutants being emitted, and they did not have a measure for how to go about for keeping into account or holding to account which pollutants were being emitted. And so there are 2 things. They are creating a tree buffer. So how much specifically are pollutants reduced because of this tree buffer? And which specific pollutants does the Shelby County Health Department track? And what type of equipment are they using to calculate the specific pollutants being emitted from their facility? All right, so that's extremely important. Thank you.
Okay, give me your first name again.
Jonathan.
John? Okay, thank you. Is there any questions? First of all, let us ask questions of the opposition. Any board members have any questions for the opposition prior to the 3-minute rebuttal?
I don't need any opposition to come up to the podium, but just as a show of hands, how many of the opposition have taken the Williamsons up on taking a tour of the site? 1, okay. 2? So 2 of you have taken a tour with the Williamsons? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't have a question or comment. I listened to this and read the documents received from the applicant, and impressed with what you're trying to do. Thank you for trying to do it the right way. However, I heard the gentleman representing them state that no entities have opposed this, like MLGW and several places, but what's more important to me are the residents, and they're opposing this. And because they have to live there and see it, and that's always important to me. It's easy to support something when you live on the other side of town. So I stand in opposition to this project because I wouldn't want my grandmother, my mother, my children to see this every day. So I couldn't in good conscience support that. I don't live in that area, but I care about these people.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions of the opposition prior to the 3-minute rebuttal? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for you, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Member Thomas. I do get a rebuttal. You've said now that you'll be opposing it irrespective of what I say, but I still think it's important. This is not a dump. You can call it a dump as many times as you want to. It's still not a dump. There's no toxins that go in this ground. This is a Class 3 landfill. It's regulated by the Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management, City of Memphis Stormwater Development, SCS Environmental Group. They do well sampling, water well sampling. Tioga Environmental Consultants do air noise monitoring. To answer the man's question about air quality inspections, every one of those reports has been submitted to the Department of Planning and Development. At each of these meetings, we've offered to submit and ask for emails, every one of those reports. National Econ Corporation has a report in the file, many of them throughout the years, where there are no violations. It lists exactly the chemicals that they test for, and they're not in violation of any of them. The Williamsons can be fined up to $25,000 a day if they are in violation of these. They do it because they're good people and they're good business operators, but it's also selfish. They can't let it be in violation or they would be shut down very quickly. This is not a dump. There are no toxins that go into the ground. There are no harm to the children. There's 575 feet between the landfill operation and Whitney School. It's invisible from the park and from the school today. Despite the older pictures that were included in the staff report, it's invisible today. Most of these neighbors drive by this site without knowing it is there on a daily basis. The city of Fraser, the area of Fraser is so proud of this area that in even most of the opposition, the Fraser, Welcome to Fraser sign is shown, which sits on their property. Memphis 3.0 uses that as the depiction of Memphis 3.0 and its aspirational goals. I submit respectfully that this is fully compliant with the aspirational goals of Memphis 3.0. At the end of the life of the landfill, it will be a roughly 30-acre overall site that will be given to the community, that the soil will be compacted, it will be remediated. They're bonded by the state of Tennessee that requires that. And it can become a bucolic park, much like other reclaimed areas in town. That meets exactly the walkability issues that are required by 3.0, that are aspired to by 3.0. There is no environmental injustice to the expansion of this long existing use, which has been there peacefully. There is opposition from some of the neighbors, Member Thomas. There's not opposition uniformly. There are also 25 people in the staff report, 25 letters in support. None of the governmental entities found any problem in their due diligence and inspection. Thank you. Me or anybody from my team are happy to answer any questions you may have, and we hope that you do have some.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of the applicant?
Here.
Anybody have any questions of the applicant? Okay.
I do have one. The opposition mentioned burning. I think that's what, I don't think he said berm. He said burning, I believe. Is there any burning that goes on?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that, Mr. Fleming, and congratulations on your last day. There is an air curtain incinerator on the site. It's about the size of a mid-sized car. It burns trees almost exclusively from the city of Memphis and surrounding area. If you have a storm at your house, your tree comes down, the city brings it to that site. That is not put into the ground, which could cause some issues during the rotting. It is turned into ash, which is then made a soil remediation product. This air curtain incinerator injects air into it, burns it at incredibly high heat. There's very limited smoke. There are no toxins. It's inspected twice a year, and there has never been a violation.
Thank you.
Mr. Werlow, wanted to ask you, is that monitored at all, as far as the machine mechanism or anything like that? I mean, how is that really handled, the incineration process?
Yes, the Williamsons have a staffer that is there at all times when it's operating. It has sprinklers completely surrounding the burner. They burn only on times when there is low wind and the heat requirements are right. If any of those conditions are not favorable, the burner is turned off. They're inspected twice yearly, and we have to give the reports in to the governmental bodies for the air quality, noise, any types of pollution, only on the burner specific. And again, it only burns trees, not leaves, not trash, not construction debris, none of those things. It is part of the state's diversion process. The state, and it makes sense, you don't put things into the ground that don't need to go into the ground. And trees alone falls in that category. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd just like to ask that the people that are here in opposition to this case, could you please stand up? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, if we don't have any other questions, okay, the people who are here in support, would you stand up? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if the board doesn't have any other questions, then we're going to move to close the public portion of this meeting. We can't, unless somebody wants to call on you before we close the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any other questions? Okay, we're going to close the public portion of the meeting. Dr. Pritchard.
Of approval of agenda item number 2, ED 2024-005.
Second. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Are we going to do it individually, or are we going to do it all together?
I'd like to make some comments.
Pardon?
I'd like to make some comments since the public section.
Oh, okay, during the, some discussion. Okay, go ahead.
I encourage all of the opposition to visit with the Williamsons and to tour their site. I toured the site this week, and I was really blown away by the care that they've taken on the parcel 1 where construction debris is going to the ground, and then they take dirt or fill and they put it over that construction debris. They can only accept 2 weeks worth of material, and they have to get it buried. I had a fortunate opportunity a year ago to visit Norman Brown's site in Collierville. I don't know if you know where the Class 3 dumpster, the dump there is. It's surrounded by residential. It's off of Wolf River. And there was construction debris piled there over 60 feet high. I didn't see anything like this on the Fraser site. I think this also needs to be pointed out that Part 2 has been being used by the Williamsons. It's owned by the Williamsons for fill or for dirt, because they need the dirt, they need the fill to bring onto the construction, onto the area where they can put construction debris. And essentially, they're using this whole site right now. But they're not able to put any construction debris on Part 2. So really all we're not talking about taking a green field and turning it into part of this operation. They're using this entire site today. They're just using half of it for fill and half of it to put debris in the ground. I think this is a benefit to the city of Memphis. And I do not want anyone to disturb. That is inappropriate. You need to leave.
Members of the audience, please keep your comments. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion of our board members? Were you finished, Mr.
I'm not
Hill?
finished.
Okay.
I think I'm not in the business of giving land away, but I do like that long term, this will be like Shelby Farms. When I was little, they dumped not just construction debris, they dumped trash at Shelby Farms for years. And we know where that is. There will never be any buildings on it. And this site will one day be a benefit. It'll be a park for the area of Fraser. So I disagree with you, Daryl. I'm going to actually support this because I'd like to see the city of Memphis still have the ability for them to use this whole site for the capacity, and that we're not breaking up a greenfield. This is an expansion, really. It's just adding an area to put construction debris in the ground that's currently being mined for fill right now, or dirt. So that was really, I think, seeing the site. I also want to say, zero smells on the site, doesn't smell like it. And they do burn trees in the middle of the site, but in a pit that's deep in a hole. So there will be smoke from that. So those are my comments.
Is there any further discussion amongst our board members? Is there any further discussion amongst our board members? Then I assume that we're ready to vote. Will that be individually or all together?
Yes, ma'am, I think I'll do individual. Mr. Tolles?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming? Mr. McKinnon?
Abstain.
And Dr. Pritchard?
No.
Vice Chair Lyles Wallace?
No.
And Ms. Wilbanks?
Yes.
Chair Sharp? No.
1, 2, 3, 5 noes, motion fails.
Pardon?
Motion fails, 5 noes. Did I get everybody?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay, can you leave kind of quietly on, we're going on our next case. These didn't speak. Okay, these did.
Every time. We're going to have every time.
Why you can't? I know, why can't you make a decision?
Honestly, that's not cool. That is not cool. You got to every single time. We are fine. I agree. No matter what you voted, you still got to vote.
Right.
Can you leave quietly, please?
Turkey move.
Hello, everyone. If you could.
Excuse me.
I know it'll take some time to get out, but if you could try to make your way to the lobby, and we can move on to our next case. I know Chair Sharp has already said that. I'll reiterate.
You're not abstaining.
Right. You leave quietly so we can go on to our next case, please.
Agenda item number 8. PD 2024
You can't hardly hear you. Wait a minute.
009.
Let them get out. Let them get out.
So why not make a decision?
Make a decision. Yeah. That is not a decision. That is a non-decision.
That's a non-decision.
It's a non-decision.
We don't wear them out.
Oh, we are. If you abstain next month,
He does it once a meeting.
once a meeting he does.
Okay, Dr. Pritchard.
Well, let me see what's last month.
Can we have,
Agenda item number 8, PD 2024-009, Parkway Village, a new planned development to allow a truck stop at 3419 American Way. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
can the applicant come up front, please, and give us your name and address, and then we'll have the staff make a presentation. Give us your name and address.
Good morning, Dedrick Bridman. My address is 3385 Airways Boulevard, Suite 229, Memphis, zip code 38116. I'm here representing Racetrack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chloe Christian, staff planner with DPD, presenting case number PD 2024-009. The owner is Sam Patel and the applicant is Daniel Brown, and representation is here today. The location is at 3419 American Way, and the request is a PD to allow a racetrack travel center. Here's a location map and vicinity map of the property. We sent 57 notices on July 11th. The property is zoned commercial mixed use 1 and commercial mixed use 3, and the surrounding land uses are single family and commercial. Here are some site photos of the subject property. It is currently a garden and suites hotel. Here's the outline plan submitted by the applicant. And the landscape plan submitted by the applicant as well. There would be a class 3 landscape buffer on the part abutting the residential on this side right here. Here are the proposed elevations. Side 3 would be facing American Way and side 1 would be facing Lamar Avenue. So the entrance would be on side 1. The request has been found to be consistent with the Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan. So in conclusion, truck stops are not permitted within these districts, but staff finds the request to be a compatible use with the surrounding land uses. There is a Love's travel stop right across the corner on American Way and Lamar Avenue, sorry. And so the subject property does abut single-family residential lots on the east with a zoning of R6. However, that property is not accessible through Venable Avenue. And there are outline plan conditions that prohibit any extension of that street through the site. And there shall also be a class 3 buffer installed along the eastern portion that will be adjacent to that residential use. And the plans must also undergo an administrative site plan approval process known as a final plat review, where city engineering would review proposed curb cuts and right-of-way permits would be required. And the project will not have a substantial or undue adverse effect upon adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other matters affecting public health, safety, and general welfare. So staff is recommending approval with revisions to the outline plan conditions, and those can be found on pages 18 through 22 of the staff report. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, do we have any questions of Ms. Christian? Hearing none, we're ready for the applicant to present your case, and we do have some opposition. So you have your...
We have a handout, please, ma'am, which is a copy of the slide deck.
Okay.
Madam Chair. And first, I'd like to introduce the Racetrack Travel Center team. Mr. Dan Brown is here, and Mr. Kelly Harrington is here. They're both with Racetrack Corporate. Thank you very much for the opportunity this afternoon. On the first slide, this is the Racetrack Travel Center plan development. And I want to emphasize, this is not a truck stop in the traditional sense of a truck stop. There are no overnight amenities. There are no showers, there are no lockers, and there's no in-house seating restaurant. This is a travel center, and basically, which is a refueling center. We go to the next slide, please. And this is an idea of who Racetrack is. They're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, family-owned and serving guests since 1934. We employ more than 10,700 team members. It's the second largest privately held company in Georgia and 18th largest private company in the United States. It operates more than 900 fuel centers across 13 states, and Racetrack owns its own fuel distribution system. If you go to the next slide, please. The next slide is a depiction of Memphis 3.0 of the area. As you can see, this is Highway 78. Lamar Avenue is Highway 78, which extends from Arkansas all the way to Charleston, South Carolina. And it's approximately 850 miles. This is a very busy intersection, I-240 and Highway 78. And by the way, most of you, all of you should be aware of the construction, the new construction by the state of Tennessee along Highway 78 south of I-240. So this is the highest and best use for this property. This property has a history of convenience stores many, many years ago. Apparently from aerial photos we were able to uncover. So this is the highest and best use for this particular property as a travel center. And if you look at the staff report on page 28, there are two statements in there about Memphis 3.0. The first one is that it's an overall, the plan has an overall compatibility, and secondly, that it's has a consistency with the 3.0. It is consistent with the 3.0 plan. The next slide, please. This is a picture. These are pictures of the existing conditions, which you saw in the staff report. Next slide, please. All right, and this is the site plan. And I want to make a point about the eastern edge. This would be a 9-foot site-proof fence along the eastern edge, depicted in red. And that green area, the dark green area, is the existing tree line, which will be maintained. The next slide, please. Now, the applicant is purchasing the CMU-3 section and the CMU-1 section. The CMU-1 section, as you can see by the overlay, will remain undisturbed. So there's a 100-foot buffer between the property line and the fence that we're installing, and that CMU section will remain undisturbed, yet it is part of the plan development. Next slide, please. These are the elevations that the staff member, Ms. Christian, discussed earlier. Next slide, please. These are the canopy elevations for the fueling. Next slide, please. This is the interior. As you can see, it's very nice. It's clean. It's a convenience store for the traveler on Highway 78. So they do have hot food. They have pizza and they have fried chicken and many snacks and beverages for the traveling public. Next slide, please. Now, this is the sustainability slide. The most modern, up-to-date fuels are sold at this location. LED lighting saves electricity, reduces light pollution, night sky is compliant, and 0-foot candles at the property line, which, as you know, since you're sitting on the Land Use Control Board, it does not bleed over the property line, the light. We have smart irrigation and landscaping, stormwater and flood control improvements, and we do local recycling. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Mr. Kelly Harrington to discuss safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Kelly Harrington, and I've been with Racetrack for several years. I've been doing loss prevention, safety, and security for about 15 years for a variety of retailers. My team as Asset Protection Director at Racetrack, we hold a wide variety of responsibilities, from investigating criminal incidents that happen on our properties to equipping our stores with the right resources to make sure that our stores and our community members, as well as our employees, are safe when they come in to work and to shop in our stores. At this store, we have already recognized that there are some crime elements in the area. We want to make sure that if we were to open this store in your community, we can do it in the most successful way possible. About a year ago, I came out to this property and I met with members of Memphis Police to discuss crime in the area and to start to anticipate what types of measures we might need to make this property a success. We are going above and beyond with the measures that we are planning to deploy at this property. We have a standard camera package that I'll review on the next slide that involves high-definition 24/7 recording with 90 days of retention. We also intend to integrate with a platform called Fusus, which allows law enforcement direct access to our exterior cameras without having to involve a site visit or connection with our team members. We take our law enforcement partnerships very seriously, and we cooperate with law enforcement in investigating any criminal matter that happens on our property, regardless of who the victim may be. We also intend to place parking lot towers that deploy both audible, visual, and camera recording as a deterrence for crime activity that may take place in the parking lot. We'd like to deploy flock license plate readers, which are in use by the city of Memphis, to detect every single vehicle that comes onto the property by recognizing their license plate, which will integrate with hot lists that are deployed by law enforcement agencies in the area, whether that be a stolen vehicle, a wanted person, or something that's yet to have happened on our property. We will have advanced investigative capabilities to deter crime and reduce our vulnerabilities at this property. We intend to have 24/7 security, staffed by Memphis Police off-duty police officers. If they're not able to do the entire 24/7 detail, we would also seek private entities to do security of the property as well. In addition, we'll have no loitering signs as well as signs advising our guests to lock their cars, bring their keys with them, and leave valuables out of their vehicles. Additionally, we deploy clear lines of sight from a crime prevention perspective so that from the roadway you can see all the way into the building, and our shelf height is low to deter crime and increase visibility for our team members. We would also deploy a 9-foot wall around the property, deterring foot traffic from coming onto the property from unwanted visitors. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have any questions of the applicant at this time?
I have
Okay.
a comment. As I travel around the country in my RV, I've used your facilities, and they're always clean and very nice. This is a great use of this property. If you've driven by there, there's a hotel there that is horrible.
Yes, sir.
And if you watch First 48, it's been on there many times, and there's love across the street. So I just think this is I want to commend you, and I know Mr. Britnam there. Thank you for bringing this case here. This is a great project that I plan to support, and I can't wait for you to. I'm coming just watch you all tear down the hotel that's been there, and to bring something positive to this area. In the security piece, it will be needed, and thank you so much for the provisions you've made for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And this one piece above is just a diagram of our cameras. There would be a total approximate camera count of 47 cameras, including 10 exterior cameras, 10 additional exterior that are around the building, and then 17 inside of the store, recording at 1080p 24/7.
Okay.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
we have one more.
Oh, how many minutes do we have for the?
2.5.
He is going to discuss the economic impact.
Okay, we have 2.5 minutes. We had a total of 10.
The last slide, with Racetrack being privately owned, we own and operate all these sites. So we're not going to have an independent operator, an independent franchisee. It helps us make sure that we maintain the security details that Kelly explained and keep the site attractive and well-maintained. So what we have here at this particular location, about 35 to 40 jobs would be employed, an entry-level associate, about 14 to 15.50 an hour, all the way down to our GM, making a full-time salary plus bonus. All of our employees, because they are employed by Racetrack, they have the same benefits as our corporate employees. You get medical, dental, vision, 401k, all of that after working for 30 days. As far as our construction and using local contractors and subs, it's about a $15 million budget. About 50 to 75% of that will be local subs and contractors in the Memphis area. We are not new to Tennessee. We're growing. We have 34 current locations in the state, 300 jobs in the state of Tennessee through HR, operations, and retail. And then the table on the right is projected tax revenue for the city and the county. This is based on similar locations we already have in operations, similar traffic patterns, similar size market. And right now, based on the projected gallons with merchandise sales, fuel sales, property tax, and business, is about $417,000 annual tax revenue for the city, about $800,000 for Shelby County. And that's the end.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for the applicants? Okay, we are ready for the opposition, and you have 10 minutes. You have about 8 people. Give us your name and address.
Robin Brooks, 3476 Venable Road. I stay at the corner of the last house at the dead end where they building this at. I've been staying over there since 2002. And just from the loves alone, the carbon dioxide, the pollution, I'm not even gonna talk about the crime. My other friend gonna talk about the crime, but my health, my child's health, is getting worse. I have a breathing machine now. My son has a breathing machine. I have a headache so bad I have to see a neurologist from the the pollution and the noise. I can hear the loudspeakers when they announcing stuff all the way over in my house. And they across the street. So, you know, our health is not what it was before, because he was born in 2019, and he was getting ear infections so much that he had to get tubes in his ears. And then he started with the asthma so much he had to get a machine, just like me. My headache's so bad, I take 5 different medications. And I can't sleep at night because of all the noise and all the different smells and stuff. It's really unhealthy. They should buy us out, you know, and not make me have to constantly go through more. Because the trucks, they park at the hotel, they park on the street. They be at the Loves. All the pollution coming from across the street. So just imagine if it's right there in my backyard. I'm the last house at the end. So I'm getting everything before it reaches everybody else. Me and my son. So we can't even go outside and play outside because there's so much pollution and carbon monoxide just all over.
Okay, thank you. Name and address.
My name is Mary McCord, and I live at 3533 Bentonville. I'm here to ensure the tranquility of my people over here. Little do y'all know that the non-con was supposed to be federally reserved. There was relics found right across the street in our backyard that dated back to 23,000 years ago. It was supposed to be reserved under our Declaration of Independence. Y'all failed us when y'all let the Loves be put there. Our neighborhood was there when Lamar was a 2-lane road. We was not taken in consideration when y'all expanded Lamar and brought all this pollution about. Now we're facing serious health hazards and pollution, breathing problems, cancer, OCPD from the pollution, carbon dioxide poison from the airport, the trains, and now the Loves. There's prostitutes and pimps at every corner, and it is a state of an emergency over here. I feel it is the worst city in America and the worst area of this city. I don't know any of y'all because I've only saw my part of town diminish, never to be brought up. But I have a plan for Lamar, and I'm like Martin Luther King. I have a dream for this city. And on the day that they shot and killed him, Elvis Presley wrote a song that said, "If I can dream." And in that song, he said, "If only a man has the strength to dream." My grandma bought that house over there in about the 1960s and 70s, and what was a really good protected historical marker over there that runs along a fault line in Memphis, Tennessee that can cause a major earthquake. I landscaped half of Memphis with APS. I landscaped all of American Way. I did 22 miles in 117-degree weather, like a summer or 2 ago or whatever. Okay, so this is what my theory is. We only picked trash from the 15-foot line. The rest of the trash in the field was bush hogged and put into the first layer of our earth. This is causing major health problems, y'all, to what's supposed to be a protective area that was given to my people, the Choctaw Nation, because I'm a Choctaw Indian. And I'm going to be making a movement called Our Lives Matter, Our Land Matters, and it's the civil rights movement to help reform and shape Lamar. I know it better than anyone because I've been over there since I was 7 years old. I have stand against the wiles of the devil and the evil over here in these streets, and I have been protected by God. It is acts against humanity over here. It is the worst part of the city, and I have seen all of it. I'm asking that my city help me to reform it. I know the plan that Lamar needs to make Lamar better. And while I believe in the things that y'all are saying, I would rather have that gas station there than to see Loves there. Diminishing what's supposed to be a national forest right across the street. They can't even put another power tower out there because it goes against acts of humanity and emits radiation more than the human can take. These hotels are blights on our community. They shut down and open up under new management, and the pimps and the prostitutes live in them. They go and they send women into sex slavery, they're human trafficking right here at our front door. I have been calling y'all for the past 5 years. I call the Mountain Rock Precinct all the time in hopes that something can be done. Every time that I step out my front door, I'm never scared, that's for sure, but I'm always ready. I will not be forced on these streets into sex slavery. I'm here to take a stand for my community. Every hotel on Lamar from American Way to Winchester needs to be deemed a blight on our community because it is a blight. It needs to be demolition down, and APS, my brother William, can cut y'all a really great deal to do this. With Lorenzo, they will help y'all. The Loves needs to be moved down to where the Pilot was, which is a great industrial area for this gas station. It was never supposed to be put there, and it goes against our Constitution of something that was supposed to be federally reserved. We are in great need of relief over here. We are suffering daily, and I'd rather see these persons' gas station there because the crime rate has increased every time that I don't even take my daughter over there no more to visit her family. I've had to get out of there. I'm receiving death threats to make a change and put an end to the pimps and the prostitutes. My friend Scott Mattis has chose to come cover this for me because he knows the oppression of our people over here. This is the worst part of the city, y'all. We don't need no more projects for Tom Lee Park. We need projects to fix the projects and to ensure the tranquility of our national forest. We have a fault line here, y'all. It's gonna cause a major earthquake. If we don't do something about this problem of trash, I called the city and I made so many calls to call and try and get a hold of the mayor because I had a really great idea in mind to put it into littering in Memphis. No one wanted to hear me. I feel so oppressed over here. My people are oppressed. We are facing danger every day. We are God believers, law-abiding citizens, taxpayers. We were actually taxed a wrongful amount for years and years until I went to the Shelby County clerk because we've owned those houses for so long. And while our area had diminished, they never came to reappraise our houses. I had to make them come do it. They never reimbursed our tax dollars, and our tax dollars has never been put to good use over here in our part of the city. It's acts against humanity and it goes against the Constitution. That's all I'll be saying. I'll be doing everything every day to reform and make this change because I believe in the change that can come to Lamar.
Ma'am, we appreciate your concerns, but we have 5 more people that want to speak, and they only have...
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you. Have a blessed day.
Okay.
You will be hearing more of what I got to say. Here's my brother's card. I hope I don't have to take this to the Federal Reserve because it goes against the Constitution how y'all allowed the Loves to be there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have 45 seconds, you say? A minute, 45 seconds for whomever wants to speak. So it's time for about 2 more people. Come on up. You got 5 more cards. We got 5 more
Madam Chair, I believe
opposition.
those are in support.
Pardon?
I believe those are in support.
No, what I have is in opposition. I don't have anything in, have 1 in support maybe. Pardon? Okay, Travis Jefferson, is that person in opposition or support? Okay. Okay, so we go back to the, okay, we're ready for the applicant. There's no more opposition that wants to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would you, Ms. Christian, put up slide number 3 for the applicant, please? I want to reiterate that this particular corner, at one time, we believe in the 70s, had a convenience store on this corner. And then sometime, and that was in the 70s, and the neighborhood was existing at the time the C-store was there. So what we're trying to do is eradicate the appearance that you have now with the hotel and all the issues associated with the hotel, the motel, to bring this corner back to its highest and best use as a convenience store. And as far as the tree line along the eastern edge, the existing tree line is approximately 25 feet in height. And that, could you go to the next slide, please? That green space that you see there, CMU1, will remain undisturbed, and that tree line will remain undisturbed. So the existing tree line and the vegetation that exists in CMU section will remain. That is the buffer. With that, I will submit, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a couple in support, but you all used all of your time in making your presentation. So I see the two in support, but it's too late for this. Okay. All right. Any questions of the opposition or the applicant? Any questions? Okay, if we have none, I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard.
Move approval of agenda item number 8, PD 2024-009 Parkway Village.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Anybody wish to discuss? Okay, hearing none, then we're ready to vote. Are we going to do it individually, or are we going to do it all at once?
I can do a roll call.
Okay.
Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Mr. Gill? Yes. Mr. Fleming? Yes. Ms. Wilbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Tolles?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wallace?
Yes.
And Chair Sharp?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Pritchard?
Thank you very much. And just a couple of words to Madam Dr. Pritchard and Mr. Fleming. Thank you very much for your service to this community. You've both been outstanding members of the Land Use Control Board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Pritchard,
Yes.
we're ready for number 14.
Yes, 14. Agenda item number 14, SUP 2024-012 Jackson. Special use permit to allow vehicle sales used in the commercial mixed-use 3 CMU 3 district located at 5050 Summer Avenue. The staff recommendation is rejection.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchard. We are ready for the applicant to come up and introduce yourself. Name, address.
Good morning. My name is Ray West, 3886 Inverness Drive, Memphis, Tennessee 38125, and I'm representing the owner.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have the staff make the presentation.
I am Alexis Longstreet with the DPD. I will be presenting on case SUP 2024-012. The request is to use vehicle sales at a CMU3 lot. This property is located in the Jackson neighborhood on Summer. 57 notices were mailed out on July 1. The current zoning designation for this area is CMU3 with a land use designation of parking uses. Here's a current view of the property. The property is currently vacant. Here is a concept plan of the property. I will zoom in a bit here. There is a total of, one second, sorry. There we go. There is a total of 50 parking spots. 7 of those spots are allotted to customer parking along Summer Avenue and Bartlett Road. The remaining other parking will be used for the vehicles for sale. There is a proposed 480 square foot building. There is an existing building on the property. The building itself is more of a structure pod. So one of those temporary office spaces that are made out of containers. And it will be placed in the rear here. As mentioned earlier, staff is recommending rejection as this proposal was deemed inconsistent with the Memphis 3.0 future land use designation. as the proposed use is too high of an intensity, given that the future land use for this property is low-intensity commercial and service uses. Although staff is recommending rejection, there are multiple conditions on the rejection, as well as some of the conclusions. This property was the subject of a special use permit from 2015 that was previously approved by Land Use Control Board and City Council to allow used auto sales within the CMU3 zoning district. At that time, the plan was just never carried out. And the conditions can also be found, I believe, on page 15 of the staff report. And then I also have them here listed above. There are 14 in total, 13 of those being very specific to the case itself. Some of those related to the providing the landscaping on the site, as well as compliance of the landscaping buffers, as some of the surrounding property uses are residential along Bartlett Road, as well as the identifying signage, maintaining the existing 6-foot wrought iron fence. Building permits must be filed and issued for the pre-existing 480 square foot office space that is designated in the site plan and that is currently on the property, as well as to be in compliance with specific areas of the UDC. Functioning bathrooms must be in place. Any outdoor lighting shall be directed downward. The repair and servicing of vehicles are prohibited, and other things regarding the operation of the vehicle sales operation. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Longstreet. Do we have any questions of staff? Okay, we're ready for the applicant to make your presentation.
Good morning again. I mean, the property is pretty much set up as is, as a car lot. I'm not sure how long it's been there. But when I got involved, I went out to the site and made a visit. I don't see why it couldn't be the owners own the property. This is a project they want to do. There will be no renovations to the site. Like was stated, there's a wrought iron fence completely around it. We have 2 entrance points, one off Bartlett and one off Summer, that has security gates there. There are existing lighting on the property. I mean, it's a good place for a car lot in my eyes. I mean, that's all I have. It's kind of a clear-cut project, so that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions of the applicant? Any questions?
If this was approved, do you have any issues with the conditions that are set
No,
forth?
sir.
Okay. Anybody else? And there's no opposition? Is that correct?
No opposition.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public portion of this meeting. Dr. Pritchard?
Move approval of agenda item number 14, SUP 2024-012.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion amongst our board members? Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote.
Mr. Gill? Yes. Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wilbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Tolles?
Yes.
Dr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lyles Wallace?
Yes.
And Chair Sharp?
Yes.
Motion carries.
No, wait. Now,
Okay, we're ready for number 18.
18, agenda item number 18, Z2024-007 North, rezoning from residential urban 1 RU1 to employment EMP located at 1389 Fairfax Street, Staff recommendation is rejection.
Okay, applicant, would you come up and give us your name and address?
David Bray with the Bray Firm, 2950 Stage Plaza North.
Thank you. We're ready for the staff presentation.
Good morning. I'm LaTanya Hull for DPD. I'm presenting case Z 2024-007. The applicant is Mr. Aaron Bright, represented by David Bray of the Bray Firm. The project is located at 1389 Fairfax Street. The request is a rezoning from residential urban 1 to employment zone. We have a location map on your screen as well as a vicinity map. There are 94 notifications sent out to the public regarding this request. The zoning map here, the zoning for this property is RU1. Directly adjacent is EMP, which is a vacant lot, and across the street is zoned heavy industrial, which is currently has an environmental use, a facility that does environmental treatment of non-hazard wastes. The land use currently, the particular subject property is where the star is indicated. One of the property that has the structure is considered the use of a commercial office, and then you have the yard in question as well. Across the street, there is a industrial use. Site photos are on your screen. The first photo is looking south on Fairfax Street, the subject property. You can see the vehicles and the tow truck along the right-of-way of the property. This next picture is looking north on Fairfax Drive towards the property. This is looking straight ahead from Fairfax to the property. And because the property is fenced, I include an older version where you can see inside of the facility. And this is an overhead aerial photo of the property. This is a plot plan of the property as well. According to Memphis 3.0, the proposed use is not consistent with the goals of Memphis 3.0. The intention is to bring the existing Savage Yard into conformity with the zone. The requested use is not compatible with the land use intent and character with Memphis 3.0. The proposed application is a private investment which will impede the process of stabilizing the community and promoting activity that stimulate market activity. In conclusion, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from RU1 to EMP. The application was filed in response to a citation received by the applicant from the City of Memphis Code Enforcement for operating an automotive service repair shop in the residential zone district. The applicant was found to be in violation, and the case is currently in pre-court investigation status. The applicant contends that the use on the site is a vehicle storage facility, which is allowed in the EMP zone, justifying this request to zone to EMP. The applicant has stated that cars are stored in this location and are ultimately sold to a wholesaler for further repair, recycling, and dismantling off-site. However, staff believes that the applicant is operating what's defined by the UDC as a vehicle dismantling and recycling business. This is based on information that was presented in the applicant's letter of intent, which indicated that they had been operating a Savage Yard since 2017. Also, site photos that we were able to retrieve, evidence from code enforcement suggesting that there's more than storage being happening on this site. And probably more importantly, on the site, according to Google Business Search, the applicant owns a business called Chips for Whips. Chips for Whips is located, the business address is 2 yards down from the actual place where the site, where the vehicles are being stored, and it's registered to the applicant. And so I had in your report, there are several images at the end of your report that show the website, some of the excerpts from the website as well. And so I think it's important to comment a little bit on that, because the issue here is the particular use as categorized by the UDC. I know the applicant says that they're storing vehicles here, but according to their website, it says that they are a junkyard, that they're reusing car parts, they're recycling car parts, that they are selling salvageable parts from the junk cars to other companies, that they are removing hazardous fluids and selling salvageable parts. Those activities categorize this as a vehicle dismantling and recycling business, which is regulated by the UDC. It's only allowed in a heavy industrial zone if you're approved for a special use permit. And so I communicated that with the applicant's representative, letting them know that based on this definition, they are in fact operating a dismantling and recycling company, which would not be allowed in the EMP zone. But they declined to modify the request to rezone to IH. So we also have images that show that there is some level of removing of parts, removing of fluids happening on the site based on historical pictures. Per the UDC, a vehicle mailing and recycling business, junk or salvage yard, is only permitted in IH zoning with a special use permit. Staff recommends rejection of this request to rezone to EMP as the current use as a vehicle dismantler and recycler is not allowed in EMP zone, and the intensity and nature of the use is inappropriate for and incompatible with the residential district. And one of the biggest issues with salvage yards, and one of the reasons, of course, that they're required to be at least 1,500 feet from a residential district is because of the hazardous nature of the materials and the equipment that are in salvage yards. Just the simple fact of storing salvage vehicles in a residential zone causes a risk for neighboring communities from leaking hazardous materials such as oil, transmission fluids, brake fluids, et cetera, and mercury that's within those vehicles. So it is an environmental hazard for the residential area, as well as unsightly. As we can see from the site photos, the vehicles are not only being kept inside of the fenced area, but they are spilling out into the right-of-way as well. So we are recommending rejection. For this, we believe that rezoning the property as a means of legitimizing the current use will have a substantial or undue adverse effect on the adjacent properties, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other matters that affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hull. Any questions for Ms. Hull? Okay, we're ready for the applicant or representative to make your presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition signed up for this?
No.
Okay. Then I'm going to take 30 seconds of my time and thank Dr. Pritchard and Mr. Fleming for your service. I've been coming down here for 30 years. I think I was introduced to both of you by my father, who represented cases until he got tired of doing it, had me start doing it. He thought the world of you. I think the world of you. We have disagreed on many occasions, but it's always been professionally, and you'll be missed. So, okay, on to this case, and then we can all go home because we failed in having a short agenda today. When Mr. Bright came to me and asked to rezone property from RD1 to EMP, I looked at him and said he was crazy because I didn't think there was any chance that that was going to happen. And then he showed me from a meeting that he had a couple of years ago with Chip Saliba, and where it was indicated that apparently there was a zoning error when some zoning was changed for this area. This lot had always been EMP. It was supposed to be EMP or IL under the old zoning. And that it was intended to be included in that, and that it was an error, but he didn't pursue that at that time. He probably should have, and now he has been cited by code, and that was what precipitated this action at this time. The use of the word in my letter to say salvage, that was probably a poor choice of words. I've communicated with Mr. Bright, and I'm going to let him speak in just a second. The only intent is to store the cars on there. And I will say something about the site photos that were shown with cars on the street. Since the time of the filing of this application, I've been out to the site 3 times, and everything has been behind that fence. And that fence that was that is, I don't know what you call it, or opaque, That is the fence that is out there now. It's not from the older photos. You cannot see the cars when you pull up on the site. I have not seen cars parked on the site. I have not seen any of the activity referring to recycling or dismantling of cars. I've only seen the storage of cars. We heard in one of the earlier cases this morning, people aren't going to want, something like this in their neighborhood. Mr. Bright's going to stand up here and tell you, I think he owns five or eight of the properties on this street. He lives next door. This is where he's been since he was 7 years old. When we had the neighborhood meeting, the only people that showed up, walked in, said, "Oh, it's your property," and we had no objection from them. This is a business that's been there. He's been in this location since 2017. He filed all the proper paperwork. Code enforcement was in agreement at the time that he filed it, but we've got a case where the zoning line has shifted just slightly north of where it needs to be, and we're trying to rectify that. So let me bring Mr. Bright up here to explain his business operation to you.
Good evening. How y'all doing? My name is Mr. Bright. My 1370, I'm 89 Fairfax Street, South, and 1389 Fairfax Street. Just both properties are supposed to be conjoined, so both of them are 1389 Fairfax Street. But anyway, I'm a City of Memphis firefighter, retired, been retired for 5 years. I did 30 years on the Memphis City Fire Department. I take my property and my street very seriously. My mom and I own 6 properties on that street, and 3 of them has to do with the office and where I got my cars. I started a tow truck business because my mom is 83 years old, and she got a house there, and my dad bought the property next door, and I kept on, and I bought the rest of the properties after I retired pretty much from the fire department. And all my properties are clean. They didn't show you the other properties on the other adjacent side of that because they always kept clean. I always get called city services to cut the fence next door, cut the yard at the end of the street, clean out the ditch, whatever needs to be done, I do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I live there, and I do not do any auto mechanics at this property. I do not do oils, no gasoline. It's only storing cars because I buy junk cars and I sell them to a dismantling place, which is a junkyard, and I make my money. That's how I do it. Now, the cars that you see are just cars that that I buy that I can keep that's older, and I might get titles for them because once I get the police to check them out, I find out that they need to be, titled. I hold them there. Sometimes they stay there 6 months, maybe even to a year. But other than dismantling them and stuff like that, I do not do that. I'm not a mechanic. I do not dismantle cars. If I do dismantle some, it will be at the junkyard. I might take out a couple of tires and bring them back and store them on my property. Other than that, and the cars itself, that's all that I do. And I do that at the junkyard because I do have tow trucks, and the cars that you see there are a result of cars that are actually taken off my property to move some things around to put back in there that I'd have taken to the junkyard. And if I do that, it takes maybe a day or two because I do have 2 tow trucks. But other than that, I do not do any mechanic work, no fluids, no gasolines, nothing like that. And I've been living there for 60 years. I was born on that street pretty much. So if that tells you how I care about my property and my family, there we go. And I just started and continued what my dad left me, and hopefully I can leave the same thing to my kids.
Thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I have one question to Mr. Bray or Mr. Bright. I understand you got a citation. What was that citation for? It says for repair, and you say you don't do repairs.
I do not do repair. I do have a mechanic at the corner of Chelsea and Hollywood. Chelsea and Merck that does my mechanic work for me. I never do mechanic work at that facility. I never have, probably never will. I'm not a mechanic.
Okay, so your site will only be for storing cars? Is that basically what I understand?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, if you can look at the site, I don't care how far you go back, you're gonna see just older cars sitting in the same spot pretty much until I actually get a title for them or sell them.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
You know, usually I'm adamantly opposed to these type projects, but you kind of knocked me down when you said you live next door to it. You know, that's impressive. But can you assure, for my satisfaction, that no one can see this? That's people can't see these, the other neighbors, that it will be totally, because the pictures I see, there's no way in the world I can support this.
Can we go back to the picture that had the fences? Yeah. So, the one that's labeled 24 June 2024, that's the condition that I've seen the site in on the times that I've gone out there, with the exception of.
Screen it out so nobody can see in it. That's how.
So those cars I'm looking at on the right, that's not there now?
No, sir. No, those are cars that, with my tow truck, I can easily maneuver cars in and out to move other cars in. So I have to move them on the street in order to take them to the junkyard. So once I move them on the street, if I can't get the tires for them, I move them out and I take them to the junkyard. That picture was taken probably in conjunction of that. We moved them out, getting ready to take them to the junkyard.
So now your entire property is fenced in any area where people can view, you have that fence screened.
Mr. Thomas, the first time I drove the site, I missed it. I mean, I knew what intersection I was turning at, and I missed the site because of the fence that was there, and I did not see him. Now, I would easily spot it now. I know what I'm looking for, but it was not noticeable.
And let me reiterate. I've been on that street all my life. I knew the guy who owned the house next door, my house that I lived in. Actually, the house I grew up in, I renovated it and I lived there. I rented out. The house that I live in now, I bought, I renovated, and I lived there. And I bought the property next door. It was zoned EMP, which I'm getting you back to now. But I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I actually started my business at that address, and it was commercial property. And on my paperwork that I had, it's EMP. That's what it is.
And my last comment would be, thank you for your service as a firefighter. Thanks.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yes, I don't know if you touched on the subject, but what is the capacity for the lot as far as vehicle storage? How many?
I normally probably have about maybe 15 to 20. You know, it just depends, you know. They can go all the way down to maybe 10. You know, it just depends on if I get the titles and want to, sell some, I do. But other than that, that's pretty much what it is.
If we were to put something as far as a mandate on capacity, what type of capacity would you say you would be okay with from a business aspect?
How many cars? Probably 15, 20, right at it. There's, if you count there, you probably see about 20 cars.
That's what I mean. I guess in terms of being screened, about 15 to 20.
Yeah, it can go down to 10. I just been kind of sickly lately. I had to go to the hospital.
Sure.
And I've been down, and I hadn't really moved any, so I'm gonna start moving them out. I don't know if you got any pictures, but you'll probably see it low as 10, maybe 5.
Okay. Is there any way we could propose something like that as far as putting a cap on capacity for vehicles that would make it a little better?
With a rezoning, this is really the only type of case that we can't condition at all. So a rezoning is just a straight rezoning, so there are no, we can't place any conditions on it.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any further questions?
So, Mr. Ragsdale, you saying if we approve this, he could stack cars 10 high, and that's a problem.
Well, so what it would mean that a rezoning to EMP would allow whatever is allowed in EMP per the code. So, it's whoever owns it later can do whatever is allowed in EMP. And so as far as outdoor storage, we would have to look at, I think Mr. Prince is looking at it right now, but yeah, whatever is allowed in EMP at this point going forward, or whatever changes, that would be allowed on this property.
Man, that causes a big problem. I mean, we would have to just be, put in our entire trust that he will only put 20 cars there.
Can I offer something? Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're still in.
We've been through the process, and we've been in process for rezoning, and I understand the concern of Mr. McKinnon, and understand the concern of Mr. Thomas. The PD process is parallel to this. We would not object to changing it to a PD. We can work out the other conditions before it gets to city council, but agreeable for the opaque screening, agreeable to a maximum number of cars. I counted, I think, a little more than 20 right there, so I would ask 25. But that's something we could work out with staff between now and city council, and change this to a PD for precisely those concerns, or the concerns that Mr. Bright decides to move to Florida tomorrow, sells it to somebody else, and they want to put in something that would be offensive to the neighbors. So we'd keep it at this use. We'd keep the screening conditions in place and put a maximum limit on the cars if we change it to a PD, if the staff is agreeable to that.
I would say, it would be up to the applicant to decide whether they would want to convert to a PD or a rezoning. If you do want to convert, if you'd like to hold this for this month, I think that would be appropriate, and discuss that option.
It would convert this over to a plan development rather than a rezoning, which would allow them to put the conditions that address their concerns. So can we request a hold at this time?
We can do, and I was just going to answer Mr. Thomas's question. There are requirements for screening, so if it were EMP, they would still have to screen from, public view and that type thing. But again, that does open it up to whatever else is allowed in EMP. So it sounds like that there might be an appetite for a hold, and then decide whether to convert this to a PD.
So, Madam Chair, can I give a motion for a 30-day hold on this project?
Yes, you may. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. So we want to vote on that first, on that as we speak of the. Okay, any discussion? Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries for a 1 month hold.
Thank you. Wish I'd done that 2 hours ago.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. Appreciate you.
Is there anything else? Any announcements?
No, I would just also like to thank Mr. Fleming and Ms. Pritchard, Dr. Pritchard, for all the service. It's been great working with you the past 5 years that I've been here, and the past 2.5 that